do this. Heather's not here, Mark's not here. This is ordinance, Kate's not here.
I know, I thought it was me, that's why I'm here. I thought I was on your committee, that's why
Oh,
I'm
wait.
here. Well, Heather could do it if she had.
Do what?
Because I've been-
What?
Huh?
I know, but
I know, but I
what can
thought,
say?
This is ordinance,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. And
both
you're-
of us are here, we didn't have to be here till
But
7.
it's good.
Mark, how does that work tonight for her committee if she doesn't have anybody here?
Me.
Yes.
It's gonna be me.
Okay.
Half a second, as soon as I grab what you left from here, I will be ready to roll.
Okay.
Okay.
All set. I'd like to call
Yes.
Ordinance Election and Legislative Matters Committee to order at 6:30. Committee members are myself and President Cooper. Tonight I have a guest. I'd like to invite the Board of Director members as well as the Director of the Council on Aging, Madeline McNeely, to speak about a brochure that they created that will be going out to seniors, or actually will you tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
it?
sure. Thank you very much for the invitation. Okay.
Car alarm's going off.
You what?
My car alarm's going off. Let me just
Okay,
shut it
sure.
off.
Yeah, that's fine, Mark.
Oh, I can hear it.
We like being flexible, right, guys?
No comment, no.
Okay,
Thank you.
we're ready.
That was
Sorry
good.
about that.
No, that's okay. During one of my board meetings, after the debt exclusion occurred, and we became familiar with the fact that, and concerned about the debt exclusion impact on the seniors, my board discussed how could we make a good faith effort to start the ball rolling to, educate the seniors and the community at large as to what is currently available for the seniors in the community. And I thought it was rather interesting that the majority of my board members were not familiar with the programs that were available. So we started as an educational process for them, as well as developing a committee and looking at the programs, and then looking at how we could succinctly put this information in a format that would be easily readable and easy for anyone in the city to interpret. The pamphlet that you are looking at, which is titled Guide to Property Tax Reduction Options for Seniors, basically summarizes what is currently available through the city, 41C, senior exemption, property tax deferral, and then as well as programs that are offered through the Council on Aging, which also can assist seniors, the property tax work-off program, and then the senior circuit breaker income tax credit. And that's becoming very much more popular as people become more aware of its benefits. So the pamphlet will be distributed with the city census. It's my impression, speaking to Cheryl Perry, the department head in elections, that there is one insert allowed in the census mailings. And so we asked for this pamphlet to be included in that, and the mayor approved that insert. So 17,000 of these will be printed in concert with the census mailing, and they'll be distributed to all households throughout the city. The feeling was that, hi Heather, the feeling was that it could be a family member, it could be a neighbor, it could be a friend that receives this information that then understands the importance and can pass it on. So instead of targeting solely the senior population, this hopefully will go out and will assist many more seniors. As you can appreciate, we are very concerned about the end result. Hopefully, we'll get a lot more calls and a lot more inquiries about the benefits that are available. And I know, Richard, in your office, that's something you spoke about the last time we met, that any promotion like this does draw a lot more work for those departments.
It's my experience that the assessors department is going to get a flood of activity as well.
Yep.
And in our experience, sending an assessor to the senior center at least once a year to make a presentation has worked out very well.
Yes. We have annually, we have done several programs. We have the DOR, Department of Revenue, that comes, and they have been coming for at least 5 years. They speak about the senior circuit breaker income tax credit, and that is usually taped on cable so that it can be shown repeatedly throughout that month. As you well know, we have board members that are really available year-round to provide income tax assistance to our seniors. It's a real benefit. And we do anticipate that workload on our end as well. The applications have to be applied annually. They are labor-intensive. They require a lot of documentation. And so moving forward, I believe that the council has before it an approval to increase the hours of one of my staff people to help accommodate that workload. So we won't know what it is. We hope that if this is successful, that it will be significant. That would be a good thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is great. Anyone have any comments or questions? No?
Todd?
Do we know what the usage is for each of these? And are we coming up against sort of the upper limits for any of these specific programs, whether it's a tax work-off program or anything like that, that we may need to plan ahead for?
Right. I believe that it's my understanding that there may be a committee. It was mentioned that we will be able to sit down and really discuss and look at some of these issues, and those are really very important. There is a cap on the senior tax work-off program. It's 120. We do maximize that number annually. It is a labor-intensive program to run and manage, significantly because more than half, if not 3/4 of the seniors in that program are 70 and older, more in the 80s and older. And so they do require significant work in where they're placed and getting them through the program. But that is, the 120 has been the standard for quite a few years, at least 5, I believe. And I believe that currently this year is about 75,000, possibly 76,000 out of the overlay account. So there is a financial consideration for the city as well. The 41C, I believe, has a cap of 185 people. And I don't know if Mr. Conti would like to add anything because that's his area of expertise. But go ahead.
In
Certainly.
the city of Taunton, which has 10,000 more people, the senior work-off program only has 60 participants.
Yeah.
And there's always a waiting line. In case of 41C, last count was 285 applicants annually. They do have to apply annually. The information they have to provide is very personal, and it's very confidential in the assessor's office. No one gets to see it other than the Board of Assessors and the people working in the assessor's office. There are, Councilor Kobus talked about limits. The only limit is on the senior work-off program. There are no limits on all the rest of these that are in this brochure. As many applicants as they are that qualify would meet the system and get the benefit.
Well, that's good news. That certainly is good news. And we do hope that this, helps educate and promote the seniors as to what programs are available. I do think there's a lot more work that needs to be done, looking at possibly some of the promotions that I understand you put forward for the tax deferral. And there are others that we certainly would appreciate consideration looking into. And thank you, Todd, for that question. Appreciate it.
Did you have another question? I thought did you have a follow-up question? I feel like you raised your hand.
No, that
Okay,
was-
this is great. I mean, thank you. This is a nice foundation, and there is a new committee that was created, so we will hopefully even add on to this in the near
I hope
future. Will this also be on the website, on your?
Yes.
Okay.
I plan on both putting it on the Council on Aging website and then on the city's website. I think if we have the funds available, I'd like to make them available throughout the city in pamphlet form too. But we're starting with the cost to get the 17,000 printed.
And then, are the applications online for these programs?
They are available online. At a previous meeting in the mayor's office in April, it was determined that the link for those would be simplified by adding it to the Council on Aging. So if you go onto the Council on Aging website, there will be a link to tax abatements and entitlements, and that takes you right into that. So that was one of the first processes that we went through, was how to identify. My concern was that many people don't know those terms, entitlements and abatements. So if you're just looking for tax help, it should be that simple, and I think we had that conversation, Todd. It's important that people be able to identify what programs are available and access them easily. The rest is, as you know, hard enough.
Great. Thank you so much for doing
You're
this.
welcome.
And this is a great
Appreciate your
thing.
time.
Any other comments? Okay. And that concludes the business for ordinance, election, and legislative matters tonight, and I call for an adjournment at 6:41.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Call this special meeting of the Municipal Council to order at 7 p.m. Please stand and join me in a salute to our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Withers, would you kindly read the notice of the special meeting, please?
Yes, October 23rd, 2018, to members of the Municipal Council from Mark J. Cooper, Council President. Councilors, by authority of Article 2, Section 2-7C of the Attleboro Home Rule Charter, I hereby call a special meeting of the Municipal Council as follows. Date, Tuesday, November 13th, 2018, time 7 p.m. Place, Council Chambers. The purpose is a public hearing for tax classification and any legal matter that may come before the council. CC Mayor Paul Heroux.
Thank you. We're moving right along to public hearings. Would you kindly read the first public hearing notice?
I will. It's a public hearing relative to setting the tax classification so that the necessary votes can be taken to determine the percentage of the local tax levy to be borne by each class of property for fiscal year 2019.
Thank you. Sure. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the tax classification? Anyone here to speak in favor?
Of the what?
Tax classification?
Back split. How much increase will it be, yeah?
No, not say we increase that 2.5 in the high school.
Good evening, President Cooper, members of the City Council. My name is Bill Larson. I pay taxes at 142 Fairway Drive, 90 Olive Street. I appreciated listening to Mr. Nasowitz's presentation a couple weeks ago. I would also like to see the rate down to 1.25. I think it's encouraging to continue to grow the business that you're trying to grow. To that end, I won't take much of your time, but I have brought some reading material that I collect over the course of the year of people who are trying to get me to go to Georgia and about 23 other different states across the country, the different discounts that they offer to different businesses to relocate and the rest of it. So I'll leave this to your reading delight. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Larson? Thank you, Bill. Anyone else to speak in favor?
Good evening, councilors. For the record, my name is Bill Bowles, 65 Norgate Road in Attleboro. I listened to the proposal that you had last week. I watched it on cable, and I've sat in this same place where you folks are for 14 different times in my life when I served as a city councilor. And it seems like the presentation is getting more and more complicated every time. And I think it's overcomplicated. Because of Proposition 2.5, we as a city have the right to raise taxes 2.5% over what our taxes were in the previous year. And what the job of this body is to decide how those taxes get allocated between the residential taxpayers and the commercial and the industrial ones. That's really what the task is. And the other thing that I think is kind of interesting is way back when the tax classification factor was 1.50, and as we know, it's 1.28 today. If you look at the percentage of businesses in the city, it's about the same as it was then. Everybody wants their taxes to be lower, but the fact of the matter is, over the years, businesses come and businesses go, and the reason that businesses don't make it are multi-varied, but primarily I think it relates to just a business plan that either does or does not work. And the other thing that was paramount in last week's presentation to this honorable body was whether we use the median household house value, which I believe was set at $280,000, or whether we use the average, which I can't remember. I think it's 317 or some number significantly higher. And the reason why folks who are advocating to further narrow the tax classification factor, the reason why they like to use the median is because that's always a lower value than the average value. But I think what gets lost on people when you talk about the median is that's the value that 50% of the homes in the city are less than that and 50% are over that. So when we make an argument to when we make an argument to lower the tax classification factor, we say, well, this is only going to impact the person with a $280,000 home by this much. Need to recognize that 50% of the properties in the city are higher than that. And in fact, I think that point was made very clear by the question that Councilor Jackson posed last week to the assessor when she said, I live in Ward 4, and a very large number of the homes in my ward are significantly over that, and they're building new houses, and those are, $450,000 homes or whatever. So when we talk about the impact to the homeowner of a median value home, it really doesn't apply to 50% of the people that live in the city. I can remember last year when the city was grappling with whether we should do a debt exclusion for a new high school. And there was a loud cry, and a justifiable cry, for the people who were just barely making it. There's a lot of, not just elderly, but a lot of working class families who are struggling and are in fear of losing their homes. And if you remember, when that school vote was in discussion, the city council the previous year had just done a significant further reduction to the tax classification factor, the one that brought it down to the current rate of 1.28. And several people running for this office, and some people seated right here, said, don't worry, we understand the school is going to be a big impact, but that doesn't mean that we can't make adjustments on the tax classification factor. Well, tonight, well, not tonight, you're not going to vote on it tonight, but when you vote, this is the time to make that adjustment. And I'm suggesting that instead of bringing the tax classification factor from 1.28 to 1.25, we should be bringing it from 1.28 to 1.31, the same 0.03 difference, but in the other direction. That will send a strong signal to the folks who are struggling and who are afraid of the possibility of losing their homes. Now, Stan made a point that don't be overly concerned about the impact of the school bond, because we just used, I think he said, $150,000, and it was a very tiny amount of the impact to the taxpayers, partially because there were more, that they underestimated the number of residences. But if you remember, when we were looking at the impact of the debt exclusion on the taxpayers, you remember it started off very low, and we are in the infancy of that project. within 3 or 4 years, that's where it peaks up to that average house of $280,000. I think it was like $522 increase. Now, somebody that has a house twice that value, obviously it's going to be twice the amount. So do we really want to be moving the tax classification factor down to 1.25, further burdening the residences? At the same time, next year, you're not going to be looking at $150,000 of increase for the school, but you're going to be looking at substantially bigger. Once you start to getting into the construction, you're going to be looking at huge increases for a while. So in order to, one way that we can help to ready the residents to be able to weather this would be to ratchet the tax classification factor up to 1.31, and maybe in the succeeding year, maybe to 1.35 or 1.36. Now, when I was first elected to the city council, I had the opinion that this tax classification factor is impacting businesses and it's causing us not to grow the business. And that's an argument that I used, but I didn't have a whole lot of facts to back it up. So during those years, Jerry Keene, former mayor Jerry Keene, was the president of the Chamber of Commerce. And he would come in every year and make his pitch for the increased taxes to the residents and less on the businesses. And so I sat down with Jerry and says, give me some analytical data that I can take to say that your point is valid. And he says, well, Bill, as far as business goes, the first thing that we look for in locating a business in Attleboro is to have a labor force, because we've got to have people to get back and forth to work. So having an adequate labor force is the most important. The next thing we look for is city services, public water and sewer for our buildings. And the next thing down the line is a city that doesn't put you through red tape after red tape, not having, for example, a health department that inundates you with needless hoops that you have to jump over, or a building inspector that does the same thing, that the city would have a friendly atmosphere toward business. And then we look for customers, because obviously whether we're an industrial or whether we're commercial, you got to have customers to be able to make money so you can stay in business. And then we look at taxes, and he said something very interesting. He said, quite frankly, the personal property taxes are more of a burden in many ways than the real estate taxes. So my contention is that by lowering the rate from the 1.5 down to the current 1.28, we haven't really done anything other than increase the taxes on the homeowners. There's no analytical evidence at all that supports that's increase. We can't point to businesses that are leaving because of taxes. I don't believe for one second that Starbucks, when they located themselves on Route 1, that the tax classification or the real estate taxes had any influence over that decision. They had their customers. It was a great location, and I think that that's true for in a lot of cases. So I feel pretty strongly that if we want to send a message, and not just a message, but something with some concreteness to it, turn the corner and widen the rate just a bit. Now, I would probably argue for more like 1.35, but 1.31 is the very same amount that the proposal was to go in the further burden to the homeowner to less burden. And there are some somewhat reasonable comparisons that one can take to look at the factor, what I'm saying. The city of Taunton, I believe, where Councilor Conti is the assessor, I believe they have a tax classification factor of 1.75. And business is flourishing in their area, both on their busy streets. Route 44 is not very much different than Route 1 as far as that goes. And they've got an industrial park, and it doesn't seem to be hurting the ability to bring customers in there. So I would respectfully ask the council to strongly consider increasing the factor, not decreasing the classification factor. And I'd suggest 1.31 would be a good place to start. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Bowles? Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor?
Favor or not in favor, or either for nor against. My name is Paul Denese. I live at 15 Musket Road, Ward 2. I was a member of the Committee on Tax Classification that was formed by the City Council and Mayor Dumas back in 2013 to try to bring some non-emotional, straightforward solution to the annual event of the city tax rate split decision. We delivered that to the council. It was non-binding in November 2013. And what we had, after looking at all the different ways tax splits work back and forth, we felt that the most equitable approach was to base the average tax increase for the residential taxpayer equal to what we were seeing as a tax increase for the total tax levy for the city. Since the residential tax base is over 75% of the total, once you set that limit, you could say to the taxpayers, okay, look, our total tax levy is going up 3.5, so your tax bill is going to go up 3.5, straightforward. And then the squeeze would be on the commercial industrial rate. But since that's 25% less or less of the total, it usually worked out pretty well. Now, in 2019, we got a little different situation because the residential tax, the base, the assessors have determined that it's a 9.5% increase in the assessed value of homes. So if you don't do anything, you're going to see a 9.5% increase in the residential tax bill when we're only dealing with a 3.8% tax increase for the total city. So we need to, since the commercial industrial rate is less than 0.5%, I don't know why that this discrepancy works that way, but we have to then look back at moving the split the other way than coming down, as you would expect, which it has over the last 10 years. So on my worksheet, I think everybody's got a copy, maybe not. Okay. You can see on the bottom, the 2019 with the asterisk, the total tax rate is $15.16. The total tax levy is $73,464,000. It's a 3.8% increase. Now, it's kind of interesting. We're down almost 1% from last year and the year before. So the rate of new growth is slowing. I don't know if that's a trend or whether that's just the fact that we've got some commercial property that didn't come on as fast as we expected. So if you take the 3.8% and put that into the average residential tax bill, that would result in a $4,412 average residential tax bill. That's a 3.8%. That's a $162 increase. That's more than last year. It's less than that 5.6% you guys decided back in 2017. But it's a increase that's justifiable because it's the 3.8% is the same. So the total residential tax then goes up by a total of 5% because we've had growth in the residential. And so the total tax levy that's represented by the residential tax base is now 77%. And we had said, and we put this model together, since residential growth over time exceeds commercial industrial growth, that this would slowly bring up the residential tax base to 80%, which is what Stan believes is a viable position for the city. Now, if we stay with the same split as 2018, you're dealing with a $230 increase, which is a 5% increase versus a 3.8 for the total tax base. Now, the results of this, if we go with the 1.34, the commercial industrial rate would be $20.32. And that results in a 2.5% increase on the average tax bill for the commercial industrial base, which is justifiable because that's Proposition 2.5. We're allowed to increase taxes 2.5%. So it's kind of a perfect storm here with the 1.34. I know the residential would prefer not to have a 3.8% increase on them, but that's what the equation presents. So I'm comfortable with it. It's based in, non-emotional, straightforward calculation. Have any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Denisi? Paul, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor?
Good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
Sorry about the interruption. I just couldn't hear. I've come here a number of times for this and for other things, but on this subject, I don't understand why a business feels that it should have the owner pay equal tax or close to it. A homeowner, it costs to live in your home. Makes no profit. A business makes a profit or it wouldn't be in business. As simple as that. I remember when 2.5 was not existing, and I'll make that brief. And there were people, they didn't know what the tax bill was going to be. So it got to the point where people couldn't afford to live here. So they went and lived in Rhode Island. And we lost so much taxes on property, and they did their groceries there. They all did that in Rhode Island. Some may have still worked here, but they brought their paycheck home to another state. We lost all that. And then when 2.5 was brought in, that's when people started to come back, because now they knew they could plan what their increase was going to be. And they knew what their tax bill, give or take a little, was going to be. It was not going to be a surprise every time you got it in the mail and say, oh my God, I can't believe this. I can't afford that. So they came back, majority of them. And I'm just thinking, and where did the big companies stay? TI and Balfour's gone. We're still here. I worked at TI Balfour's. and paying my property tax. I just want to say a little bit, when it comes to seniors, a lot of us have lost our partner. My husband passed away, and of course that nosedives your income. You're just on one. And where are we supposed to get that increase? I mean, I know that they allowed 2.5. They allowed 2.5, and I agree, open the door for the new school. We desperately need that. And it would be foolish to put so much money in the old one. So I think it's a good investment, and we're taking on that increase with that speculation only that it's for the high school. No other dipping in 2.5, or we're going to end up in trouble again. So, but how are we supposed to take on, regardless if you're a senior or not, another increase? We've got the high school to pay for, and then we're going to have higher taxes? You can't, you know, it's impossible for seniors, and I personally want to stay in my home. I worked hard all my life. I did the factories. I did the farming. We did the hard labor, our generation. The least we can do is be able to stay in our home. And you know, they always say, well, business holds things up. I said, no, people do. We do, us homeowners. Regardless of what people think, those taxes pay the bills here. Majority of them. And that's how we survive. Businesses come and go. Now look at Lowe's. They're closing 274 stores. Cracker Barrel, they're closing some. Sears did, Macy's did. They're closing stores not because of taxes, because people are ordering online and find it more convenient. And I'm one of them. But the old legs don't take you around the store like they used to. But anyway, and they're downsizing for a different reason. You know, they're looking at their business and say, okay, you know, we got this amount going out the door to the internet, ordering online, and, you know, it's increasing more and more. And we're going to see more and more places closing or cutting back. Now I think of all these people without jobs. Where would they get the money to pay more taxes to stay in their home with their families? No more than I can get more money. I'm a senior. And a great-grandmother at that. 16 grandchildren in 5 grades. But anyway, you know, it really hurts me that business want more and more and more from homeowners. And you got people out there going to lose their job, and they got kids to feed. They got a house. They got things they need to take care of. I have a home I need to take care of to stay in. It means a lot to me. And there are seniors out there, including myself. Everything goes up for us too, especially medicine. We have more of than most. But where do we get our income to go up for taxes? And there's a lot of us that have to choose food or medicine. I've been there. It's no fun. You work so hard all your life, and then you've got to make choices like that. I'm living on samples for my heart right now because the medicine is so expensive. $800 a month. I can't afford that. I just hope the samples don't stop coming. And there's a senior that her husband served 12 years in the military, came home disabled. She was crying one day at the senior center, and I said, "What's the matter?" She said, "I just can't make it. I can't. I always have to choose food or medicine every month." She says, and my husband died from his injuries of war. I said, I'm sorry. She says, and that's what's making it hard. It's only my income now. So she said, someone said if I could get food stamps. I said, well, I don't know where you go, but let's go. I'll go with you. So the next morning we went and made an appointment at 1 o'clock. So we're sitting there waiting. And, you know, this is not to be offensive, but it's the truth. 2 women walk in with a baby in their arms and one in their hand with a social worker and go into our appointment. The 1 o'clock appointment, they right in. The door was left open. It was to interpret the language in English and Spanish. And those women left, they were dressed in the finest clothes and beautiful jewelry I couldn't afford. And those women were given $10,000 each for housing, $10,000 each for necessity needs of clothing and just get supplies for their kitchen, toasters and so forth. And there are so many thousands in cash. They left with the bank, my money and yours. And I went in with that woman who just wanted a few food stamps, and her husband died from serving. She was $5 over. Well, I stood up and my French blood got rolling, and I could not, after what I heard, sit still. She's crying. She says, what am I going to do? It really is, the only word is hell, to live like that. Especially when you've worked hard, and her husband gave his life for this country. Didn't mean anything. So what happened was I just stood up and I looked at the lady and I says, after what I just heard, thousands of our hard-earned money going out to people that never paid a dime. They just arrived. Now, I'm not against immigrants. We're all immigrants, except the Indians. The difference is, when my family came from Canada, they sponsored each other. They didn't look for anything, and they became citizens within 6 months to thank this country for them being able to work and feed their families. Because Canada didn't have any, namely paper mills. So they moved to Vermont and Maine and so forth and down. But that's how they thank this country for giving them a chance with their families. And they joined together their money, got one farm, they worked the factories, and the next one, and so on, till they could get here. And grandma stayed back and took care of the kids till they could come. There was no money from the government involved. It was sponsoring each other. And, you know, I feel that's the way it should be. Become a citizen, do your part, row the boat with us, pay your taxes, and serve the country if you're called or needed. Do like everyone else here is doing. And we're no different. We're immigrants. The difference is how we do it. We come here and want it all given to us. That's not right, because that makes me feel lousy. My husband didn't even collect 1 year of Social Security. He died of cancer. Do I get that money? No. But yet the government, I remember when Roosevelt passed Social Security, I'll be just a few minutes. Don't lose your patience.
No.
I'm giving you a little history lesson.
Just a point of order. I'm so sorry because I'm fascinated and I want to hear everything that you have to say. We just need to shift you back over to speaking specifically about the tax split. That's
Well,
we need to keep it on that kind of a path.
Yeah, well, I think if you look in depth to what I'm saying, a lot of it is connected to that. It's how could we afford? It's what we've had to do to survive and how we have been grateful to our country. So, I mean, my words may be a little different because of the age difference. You're young and beautiful. I'm old and beautiful.
No question.
But anyway, I got a few good jokes another time. I can't do that now.
We can meet and have coffee. I want to hear all about everything.
No, the joke's not here. No.
Just, if you don't mind, give me your name and your address for the record.
Oh, yeah, Shirley Horton. And I'm definitely rooted here because Horton began in Rehoboth. Horton Manufacturing, Horton Field, Horton Street. And the one that led the Civil War, I forgot his first name, but it was Horton.
What's your address, Shirley?
What was that?
What's your address?
Oh, 82 Knott Street, Attleboro. And I just wanted to finish saying that, you know, you're still in the field of working, but your day is coming too, like mine. And wouldn't you want to be able to, if you chose to live in your home? I mean, that's your biggest thing that you work for. I won't even go into college education, but anyway, that's the biggest thing, that's your goal in life, to have your home. And there's a lot of abuse out there for us. I've experienced it. My husband, when he was sick, it's everywhere. It's in the elderly housing, it's in the rehabs, hospitals, it's everywhere. I just want to stay home where I feel safe. And I have a groundhog living in my yard for 6 years. So it's his residence too. And we have conservation land behind us, so I get a lot of animals. But anyway, it just, you know, to always want to put it on the shoulders of homeowners is wrong. It's so wrong. Businesses can raise the price. We go in the market, we pick up an item, it's less weight, more money. We're getting double whammies everywhere. So they find a way to make it, and if they're not making it, they're not going to be in business, and that's not taxes. That's bad management, or if it's a business that's going to generations, there's no one to take it up. You know, but you can't put it all on taxes. Taxes is more profit. That's all that is. Because you can raise your price on your items, or you ship them to China and have them make them so cheap they don't pass our laws. But, you know, like the lead they sent here with toys, right? Mm-hmm. But anyway, I'm not against business. I'm against always wanting to throw it on our shoulders. That's what I'm against. Businesses can find ways to have new products or make more money or whatever they can come up with. What do you do with a home? And your husband passed away and you're it. Where do you get that money? And my last thought is, where do those people without their jobs get their money, keep their families in their homes? I want to thank you all. I hope I didn't bore you.
No.
I try to spice it up a little. But I'll keep the joke for another time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Warden.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor?
Can we refocus? Good job, Jay.
He's such a gentleman. Yep.
We go.
Oh, boy.
That's blue 120 carrier.
Yeah, I'm going to tell him. You have to say your name and address, but I know what it is, so go ahead, Francis.
President Cooper and all the remaining councilors, my name is Francis Balut, and I live at 120 Carrier Avenue in South Attleboro. And I want to make some statements in reference to how much taxes the people of Attleboro would be paying, but I also have something that I believe is related, and I'm hoping that you would accept that related portion. It's shorter, so I'd like to mention that one first. And that is, I just recently got my utility bill.
Francis, if it's not related to tax classification, make the connection. Or I know one of my friends here is going to call a point of order, and I'm sticking to it. We've got a lot of people that want to speak
Yeah.
tonight.
The connection basically was, I only use 300 cubic feet of water, and they get charged for 500 cubic feet of water. And that happens to seniors, and especially people who live alone, don't use a lot. So I'm saying if something could be considered there, would be appreciated. As far as the tax classification, I can tell you personally that every single year since we started stabilization fund, et cetera, my taxes have gone up. And I've recently started watching my money, the supply versus the expenses. And I can say that there's like 35%, I guess, of the taxes that come from South Attleboro. And it's now an area where I'd like to see exemptions for people who have lived in Attleboro 10 or 15 years. I'm giving you a broad range to consider. 10 or 15 years, and some people may be just over the line, like Ms. Horton had just mentioned. She makes a little bit too much money, she don't get the food stamps. But it's the same thing with the taxes. If we had an age limit, a range, like people that were 70, 75, 80, pick some number in there when you see the population of particular age groups, that they would become exempt from this continuing high tax. They would remain at a lower, more stable rate. So I'm just asking you to search and look for some of these alternatives. And but do try to give the seniors a break, especially the people who live alone. I know I live in my home alone. My grass has been crying to be cut, the leaves, etc. And I've just been so busy. Somebody wanted to follow me around, they would see. But it's hard to take care of everybody. That's a need, but I do try my share. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
And is there any questions?
No, thank you, Francis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steve Hosmer. I live at 164 Downing Drive here in Attleboro. And I'm here tonight speaking for many of the homeowners in Attleboro. And I don't want anybody to think that because there are not hundreds of people here tonight, it doesn't mean that we're not watching, or it doesn't mean that we don't care about what goes on in the city. We oppose the more of the shifting of the yearly tax burden away from businesses and onto homeowners. This shifting has been going on for the last 7 of the 9 years. I want to remind everybody that we've also voted for an override to build a school for the future of our children and the future of Attleboro, too. Many people really can't afford this additional new tax, but voted for it anyway because it was the right thing to do. And now these additional taxes, by continuing to shift the yearly burden, is just simply unacceptable. And this yearly practice needs to stop. People in the city need to understand that this is not going to be a yearly thing that goes on. And quite frankly, I would like to see numbers presented to the city council that representing what the tax shift will be. I'm not going to bore you with all the numbers that I worked up and so forth, but I also came up with a number of 1.31 myself. And I think it's something that should be considered, and I think we've all got to work together for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Is there any questions for the gentleman? Steve, just one second.
Just no questions, but you might want to submit that to Virginia to be part of the record.
Yeah, if you have written comments that you want to be part of the record, you can submit them. You can submit them either written or by email. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Anyone else to speak in favor?
I'm in favor. I'm definitely in favor. Excuse me, 21 Olive Street, Mark Ethier, Ward 5. I'm in favor. And
Could you just tell me your name, sir?
Mark Ethier. You could double them if you ask me. We're going to pay it anyway. What I'd like to know is what are you guys going to do with it? What do we have in our future as residents on our end? What is Attleboro doing for us for what we're paying? That's my question to you. I don't have any numbers, and it doesn't take a brain surgeon. We're gonna work and pay our taxes and pay our bills. That's gonna happen. What's happening on your end to give back?
Any questions? Council. Mr. Blair.
I think we've got a pretty good town and city. I think we use our tax dollars. This council looks them over pretty good.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Speed or peak up, can't hear.
Excuse me. I think this city handles the tax money that comes in very well.
I believe that, yes.
Okay.
They do have great departments. They're doing very well. They have great vehicles. They're plentiful, and they're doing very
Our
well.
public safety in Attleboro is probably one of the best in the state.
Oh, you better believe it. I've seen
So,
it for hand.
you know,
firsthand,
it's
yes.
it's not that we're wasting the tax dollars, if
Sure.
that's what you're insinuating.
It's evolution. We need
So-
to raise it. Everything is
I mean,
going up, yes.
we do the best we can.
We can all see it. We're the cheapest town to live in.
How long have you lived here, sir?
I used to blow my bicycle tires up at Blair's gas
Did you?
station. Yes, sir. I've lived
Were
in
you
the east side.
polite?
I was born and raised here in Attleboro.
Were you polite?
Yes, I
You
was
didn't
very
get
polite.
charged, huh?
Yes, I remember we could go
Okay, thank you.
further into
Council
it. But
Jackson, did you have?
being cultural throughout the world, the country, and owning several homes in New England, myself and my family, we all kind of want to know. I'm only attending here because I don't know if I should pull out or not. What's going on in Attleboro? We're game for the tax hike, but we need to see some more production here.
A lot of great things are going on in Attleboro.
I'd love to
You
hear
have water services, you have fire, police, you have sewer. A lot of towns don't have that. We have the best roads. I mean, you go ride through Taunton, it's like riding in a boat when you're riding through Taunton roads. We have great services to offer here. We have a wonderful community, we have great school system, phenomenal teachers. Well, obviously, because everybody has voted for this high school, they have good faith in what we're doing and our school committee is doing. So I think we offer a tremendous opportunity for you to raise your children here, for you to grow here, and to have grandchildren here. And like you said, you've been here since you were a kid, because, I mean, he's kind of getting a little bit older, so you must have been really young when you were blowing up the tires.
37, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Surprised you're
I learned to
questioning
swim in Eastside Pool. I know the area very well. And I don't mean to raise any questions or to make a fight or anything, but I'm going to be honest with you. This is the worst I've ever seen this neighbor. Not the entire Attleboro, but Ward 5, our area. Growing up in the area, this is the worst I've seen this area. It is, and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm only here tonight because I'm curious to what is actually going on. And I was here
what
when
street do you live on again? I'm
Olive
sorry.
Street.
Olive, okay.
I was here when T.I. and Balfour were here, and things were assaultsmen. I remember the whole city of it. We used to ride our bicycles through here,
Yeah, the world has changed though, Mark. You have to admit that. I mean,
and that's why we're leaving.
it's very frightening.
Yeah, and we're waiting. I am its last route here. My entire family wants to leave. They all want to go. I'm the last root holding on to, I want to stay. I personally want to stay. I've worked really, really hard to stay here. Extremely hard. I've spent a lot of money and I've worked hard. I want to. I'm sorry?
Move toward 4.
No, I want to stay in the heart of it all. I'm a city boy. But I want to see some action here. But that's drifting off of the tax thing. And again, yes, I'm in favor. I'm definitely in favor. You could double them and take it and make it work for the city, please. And I would like to see some life. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in opposition?
Yes. I've waited a couple of times. I thought people were for it, and they seem to be against it. So much for being the queen of politeness. My name is Susan Jensen. I live at 61 Rand Avenue. I grew up at 44 Rand Avenue. I was born and raised in Attleboro. My father, Leonard Robert Jensen, worked for the city of Attleboro in the high school for almost 30 years before dying of pancreatic cancer and never got one check. So, I am the second of 3 generations of Attleboro graduates. My first job was, of course, the McDonald's in South Attleboro, Monku, and Brook Manor Pub. After college, I traveled. I wanted out of here, like so many. But I came back. I don't know why. Family, friends, whatever. I purchased my second property at the age of 35 as a single woman. As a single homeowner without children, I pay my taxes. A little late on my water bill right now, but I don't use that much water and I recycle. You got it. I'm the queen of living naturally. This is the house I purchased. My grandfather built, and my father lived there, and now I live there. It was built from an old building that was 100 years old at Brown and Shop where he worked. It was an annex. He had the weekend to take it down, and he did, and then he built his house. I live 3 houses down the street from my mother, where I grew up. Many of my neighbors are 3rd and 4th generation. The reason I'm telling you this, it's getting real tough. I worked for 35 years, predominantly in the nonprofit sector, until I became disabled from numerous genetic illnesses. 3 weeks ago, I had major surgery. The reason I'm reading this is, quite frankly, it's a little tough after almost 8 hours of anesthesia. So my spine is halfway fixed. Regarding this tax classification, I gotta tell you, I'm not getting a big increase on my SSDI that I worked for. It will cause me to lose the house, my family's home. And you know what's funny? As a single woman who pays her taxes and everything else, it's a cheap, cheap thing for the city versus me going to HUD housing for the disabled, which is far more costly. Regarding tax classification, I know that some of you want me to hurry, but I'm going to tell you, just like this lady did, a few things. Back in the early 1940s, the rezoning of Route 1 and 1A occurred. My father was about 6 years old. I wasn't born for another couple decades. I'll be 55 in 2 weeks. Back then, even as I was a child, there were very few businesses along Route 1. But they flourished because the people of South Attleboro, which a lot of new people that live in South Attleboro don't believe South Attleboro exists, but okay. As a child, these businesses flourished because of the loyalty of the South Attleboro residents. There was Carol's Burgers, Almack's, Mopsy and Freddy's Gas Station Garage, Luigi's Pizza, Hallal's Barber Shop, etc. Yes. Okay. Route 1 and 1A has become the golden apple, which helps fund this city. Let's face it. When Mayor Judy Robbins was, when she was our mayor, I had on good accord from 2 counselors back then that she basically wanted to level Rand Avenue, where I live, Sycamore, Magnolia, and all of the other ones just down and make it look like Route 2 in Warwick. She didn't care that our houses were worth more than the cost of they would get through eminent domain. Since then, the traffic's increased tremendously. It infringes on our quality of life. 3 days before my surgery, I was further up and jumped and somehow hit me. I was lucky I wasn't killed. If my service dog, who I have for hearing, was in the back seat, he would have been killed. And I was just shaken up from that. So now I have to find money for a car. So what I'm trying to say is the traffic has increased tremendously. It infringes on the quality of our lives. When I was a child, one of my friend's grandmothers was hit and dragged 100 feet to her death. We have a wonderful community. I just want to let you know this. On Rand Avenue, the houses have all changed. Edgewood, Sycamore, they're all beautiful. It's a beautiful neighborhood. People really care. I know in April my mother fell and fractured her hip, and guess what? She yelled for help because I couldn't hear the phone and I was away, and the neighbor heard her screaming. A couple months prior to that, I had given the young lady a big talking to about the importance of being part of a community, stepping up to the plate, and helping your fellow neighbors when they need you. Just to let you know, a lot of us don't bother traveling up Route 1 on weekends or busy times because, you know what? It's really inconvenient, and we live there. My mortgage has increased from January of this year twice. I have now pay $150 more a month than I did in January. And it's a simple little bungalow house, nothing fabulous. Now in January, this coming January, and by the way, and if it wasn't for some assistance, I can tell you I would not have that house any longer. I would have lost it before. In January, our president will be increasing tariffs, which will increase many of the costs that people in my economic predicament go to, whether it's the dollar store or anything I grew up shopping at London's, thought nothing of dropping, even in 1980, 25 bucks, I'd drop on anything. I had custom-made handbags, you name it. From this little shop, I dropped 25 on a cowboy hat because I wanted it for a weekend high school thing. Back then, that was a lot of money. Because of these tariffs, we're going to find that local businesses will feel that pinch. And how are the residents going to handle it? If a resident, like myself, tries to keep up their property and keep up their house, and they've lived here for generations, this increase is going to be like, gee, do I go out and spend some money over at Chuck E. Cheese or whatever those places, restaurants are, or do I put that money aside because it's got to pay taxes, it's got to pay my meds, it's got to pay for food, it's got to pay for heat, and you know what? That's really what's most likely going to happen. Now, what happens when I have a business degree in marketing? So, when people say business is tough, there's always a way to reinvent or reproduce, repackage a product. And I've worked for profits before the nonprofit. And I know that spending at these businesses, because it's just logical, it will go down. So we have to really think about this. You want to increase taxes, you're going to lose residents. Residents that are, let's see, by the way, I happen to be on the Attleboro Committee for the Disabilities. I happen to be a member of the Order of the Eastern Star in Attleboro. I belonged to a church in Attleboro for many years, and now I go to another church. I go to the YMCA. I volunteer and have done presentations on Native American culture because my ancestors go back to my Native American as well as English roots to go back to 1694 in this state. We've been here forever. I don't want to have to leave. I don't want to go into HUD housing for the disabled or the elderly. I want to stay in my home. When the contractors did some work a few years back, it was a HUD grant. I was so grateful for it because it took the lead paint off, made living there much easier, because before that, it was the only house on the street that was just horrendous. And I have to say, one thing they said about my house, my God, it's built for a tornado, level 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. You've got 4x6s instead of 2x4s. My father's house where my mother's lived is the same way. We all have a responsibility, whether I'm a volunteer on a committee for this town, or I help on Earth Day at the library, a member of the Attleboro Writers Group, an artist who for the first time put a painting at the Attleboro Museum. Whatever it is that we do for a business, whether it's working for the paper, working for whatever, we have our own private businesses. The first thing we have to consider is what in our budget can we cut without affecting the residents of this community. That is your priority. You were hired, you were elected by the community. Therefore, you work for us. It's hard, it's really disappointing at times when people forget that. And I remember working in nonprofit and for-profit and knowing that my job, especially in nonprofit, really mattered, and it was very stressful. So what I'd like you to consider is the individuals who've lived here for 100-some years, those people, the elderly, multi-generations, and people who love this town, who are a part of this town. I even have my final resting place all picked out in South Attleboro. So what I'm trying to say is, please don't send us running away. Please don't have us lose our homes. Then we'll have a problem with foreclosures left and right everywhere. That won't look good for the town. And our HUD housing will need to be increased, and that's costly. So all I can say is I'm really against this. And I know a lot of other people with children, they work multiple jobs. Being disabled was not on my list. I was supposed to graduate college, buy a house or 2 or 3, maybe even have some for rent, and travel the world. It didn't happen that way. This is not what I want. But I love where I live. I'm grateful for it. Even though at night now, all you hear is traffic up Route 1. Speeding, cops. You can hear the trains now behind Cardi's. And I can hear them. Now, if I can hear them, and I am 80% deaf, there's a problem. We gotta, try to work together on this. And remember that a town is made not up of just businesses. It's made up of people and homeowners and residents who pay their taxes, love their town, vote for you, go to parades, volunteer for committees, and help each other out. That's the important thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition?
Good evening, folks. My name is Dan O'Brien. I live on Pine Road in Attleboro. All I have to say is, I think you better give some serious consideration before any tax increases. I've been retired for 23 years, saved everything I could, and it's getting to the point now where being retired, you can't afford to live here with the tax rate going the way they're going. That's all I have to say. Give some serious thought to it, because someday you're going to retire yourselves, and if you don't have a couple of $1 million put away, you're going to be up the creek without a paddle. Thank you and have a good night.
Anyone else here to speak in opposition?
hasn't been sworn in yet.
Actually, I think I agree with everybody who spoke here in one way or another.
Your name and address for the record?
Waterman, 33 Dorchester Avenue. I've lived here for 16 years. This isn't my personal story because fortunately I was able to put enough money away in my life to be able to afford my taxes. But I'm thinking of people who really haven't been in that position. All summer long I met senior after senior, but it wasn't just seniors, who were literally scared that they were going to end up losing their homes. And these are many of these people voted for the high school. But to have their taxes increased again, this is just tearing some of these people apart. But it isn't just the seniors. It isn't just people living on the edge. Kate, I also met people in your area who are very scared, and places like Brigham Hill, and were telling me that they think they might have to sell out because this is shocking to them if the taxes go up again, if the proportion of the taxes go up on residences. So it's for all of us. And I really want to compliment everybody who spoke here tonight. I would support 1.31.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mary Jane Jensen, 44 Rand Avenue, South Attleboro, and I'm here to voice my feelings about raising house taxes. I have lived in Attleboro since 1962 when I got married. It's a long time ago for some of you people. However, during this time, South Attleboro has gone, as my daughter mentioned, from a few isolated businesses to a point where the lights from the businesses are interfering with the houses, the noise from the traffic is interfering with life, and you cannot get here from there. Years ago, you could go from South Attleboro to North Attleboro in a matter of minutes. I believe it is now 25 lights. Can you imagine 25 lights going 5 miles? It's ridiculous. But it all comes down to taxes. Now, all these stores that came in here, I heard via the grapevine, they were all put down in South Attleboro. Let South Attleboro handle all this and keep Attleboro pristine. And that's what happened. If you want to have a pristine neighborhood, come to Attleboro. If you want to go down to, I can't think the place in Rhode Island, you got it in South Attleboro. They are now building some more buildings. And all that area was once filled with nothing but trees. Trees everywhere. When they built BJ's, we thought they were out of their pea-picking minds to think of doing something like that in a neighborhood. They did, and it's been growing ever since. We cannot afford to give businesses a lower tax rate than what you're giving the homeowners. I believe it was the young lady who said that oh no, I've lost my track. What we need to do is bear in mind that a lot of us are senior citizens, a lot of us are single mothers, a lot of us are in between, where the job doesn't pay enough to keep up with the taxes, so they go rent and they sell their house. I do not want to sell my house. My husband died there. I intend to do the same. Hopefully not for another 20 years or so. Now, the pressure of taxes increasing beyond my income is stressful. taxes above the income of my neighbors is stressful. You must bear in mind, we all can't support the local business. As it was brought up, the business earns money. We don't earn money, but they do. And if they find that they're not earning money, they get themselves out of it and with a tax write-off, and somebody else moves in. Now, all those businesses on Route 1, have you all been down there and seen it lately? Anybody here?
Every day.
Yeah. Isn't it nice?
I live there.
You live there? Great. So do I. Where do you live?
I know where you live. I know where you live.
Oh, yeah, where do you live?
I live right off of Fenton, Oak Square.
Then you can fully understand.
I definitely understand.
Well, I had to go to the doctor's office. Normally it took me 15 minutes to get there. I was late. It took me 45 minutes to get there, thanks to Route 1. Now, that has nothing to do really with what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the businesses are out there to make money, and they are making money. Hand over foot, hand over hand, hand over head. They are making money. Homeowners are not making money. Homeowners pay city taxes, federal taxes, water bills, and all the other bills. Insurances, you gotta have an insurance for your house. You have to have insurance for your car. And then the city wants to sock it to you with more taxes. Please, bear in mind that some of us can't do it. And bear in mind that these fellows in these beautiful stores are there for one reason only. They don't give a hoot or a holler about South Attleboro. All they're there for is to make money off of South Attleboro and Attleboro. So please, do not raise our taxes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? None. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition?
You've had a piece of the
Oh, actually,
My name is Sue Jensen, and Rand Avenue again.
actually, you can only approach the podium once.
You can?
We take test. Yep,
All right, I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
no problem. Thanks. It's
All
not a
right.
debate. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joe Monahan. I live at 27 Dent Street, and this is the first council meeting I've been to. I'll keep this sweet and short, sweet, because it's late. But I've got one question that all of you should ask yourselves. What is the problem you're attempting to solve? Yeah. Until you decide what, because I'm not sure what that problem is. And is the fix that you're designing, or you're thinking about doing, does that address the problem or will it fix the problem? But the first question is, what is that problem? And I'm not going to ask you, but you need to decide what that problem is. You've heard a lot of problems here. The question is, this particular solution, what problem is it going to fix, and will it fix that problem? So that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Any
Thank
questions?
you.
Thanks, Joe. Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition?
Good evening. Sarah Lynn here is my neighbor. I just forgot to mention that. She lives on Fenton Avenue like I do. I live at 28, and I don't know her number. But I think everything's pretty much been covered, especially the young lady that sat in front of me. I think she went around and around, and she mentioned everything several times, which was great. But the 1.3 to 1.8, give us proportions, give us this. But you know what it boils down to? Dollars and cents out of our pockets. This young lady said we have a great town. Oh, we got wonderful services. And she mentioned we have sewers. Yeah, we have sewers. When the sewer went by, I paid for the sewer going by my house. And you know what? Every 3 months or so, I pay for the sewer now. We have water in it. We have running water. I flush my toilet upstairs and down. We pay for that water. Okay? When I moved there, my taxes were $600. The house cost $25,000. Why am I being taxed now on $300 and change? Where's that money going? Maybe we ought to look at you people more often, and I want to criticize you, because you have to figure out where this money is going and why. Why should an 80-year-old person be worried about buying medicine because you're going to raise his taxes another $200? You're going to raise mine too. I was furious when you guys voted for the school. I didn't vote for the school because I thought there was a cheaper way out. The people that were selling that school business, I think, were off course. But be that as it may, the school's going to be built and I'll pay for it too. I'll go a 4th time to Boston to try to get abatement and maybe be turned down, but at least they're going to know that somebody's got his eyes open. My whole point is that the taxes were $600. I pay $4,200 now. That's 700%. Has anybody's income gone up 700%? No, my friend Dan here, I'm sure his hasn't gone up. Everything that goes up, Social Security takes it for medicine, for his Medicare. So how are we going to pay this tax? And then the gentleman there said, what are we going to pay this tax for? What's the money going for? We have more residents, we have more businesses, higher taxes. The snowplow still goes down my street several times, whether there's 2 houses or 10 houses. So are we really, do we need to pay that driver more money? Do we have to buy a new truck for him? I know it's kind of earthy, but what is the money going for? Why do we need to increase 2.5% every year? Maybe we're hiring the wrong contractors. Maybe we're having shoddy work done. Maybe it's being redone. Maybe. I know that one time you guys, I say you guys as the city council, you paid thousands of dollars to move a fire station into Rehoboth for a few weeks because a bridge was out. When I was here, which was only the 2nd time I was here, that sounded horrific to me because it was, I think, in the 60s of thousands for a week. Is that how you're spending our money? Was there a better way? I don't know. But I'm saying, think about it. I'm going to pay the increase if I have to, but I'm not going to like it. And again, those services that are provided to us, I don't even like paying for that. I think my trash should be picked up with the taxes I already pay, which are $700 more than I started. And the street should be plowed as well. The only thing I see that the city really supplies is the lights on the street, and there's only several. Does that require a tax increase? Do we have to burden 80-year-old people, and myself too, which is a senior citizen at this point? Just food for thought. I thank you for your time. Just consider it a little bit.
Before you go, what was your name?
Andrew Pora. 28 Fenton.
Yeah, I get that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Any questions? Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition? Anyone else here to speak in opposition?
A dearth of seniors. My name is Sharon Whitney Lennox. I live at 122 Brown Street in South Attleboro. I'm a proud 1965 graduate of Attleboro High School. If anyone else is such an alumni, please make yourself known to me, because none of us look the same. I recently moved back to this community after some time away, and I'm very proud to be here. I got my best business education at my lady's dress shop in the stock room, and it provided me a good background in business, where I continued and ended my career as a financial analyst for Brown University. In full disclosure, why I am against an increase in my taxes, I analyzed what my tax bill would be when the increase for the high school went in, and I realized that I'd be paying about $30 more a month. I can live with that. I can live with that. It would be better if some of the high school students who are going to benefit would come down and rake my leaves now and then. But outside of that, that would be a one service that, you know, they probably should proudly provide, since we've provided them with hard-earned dollars. Speaking to this new consideration of a tax increase, I feel it would unfairly burden the senior citizens of this community. I think what hasn't been mentioned is the word diversity. And if you increase taxes and continue to do so, those of us shouldering the burden, and I too live on insulin samples, if you increase these taxes, you will increase the burden on the elderly unfairly. I'm told we can get abatements, but abatements require that you work. In order to work, you have to leave your home. Many of us, as you can see, are not readily able to leave our homes to do this. So abatement is just a word that you are throwing around that doesn't apply to most of us. Many of my friends are hurting. It hurts when we want to go out to eat and they have to wait till they get their Social Security check. People will move out of this community. You will no longer have senior citizens. And that's the diversity issue I would like you to consider as you consider taxes. You're pricing us out of the market. You will not have us here. We provide a good foundation for your children. I live across from Coelho Middle School. I can be a safe house if anyone needs me. I wish we could do more for the community. I wish they could do more for us. But I'm worried about those of us that are not in a position. Having worked for Brown, I was well taken care of when I retired, but that's not the case for my friends. They're living on Social Security, and it's not enough, and it doesn't go up $300 a year. So please consider us and consider the diversity that you will be losing in your community if you price us out of our homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition? Anyone else here to speak in opposition? Anyone else to speak neither for nor against? Anyone here to speak neither for nor against? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, would you like to close this public hearing?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I declare this public hearing closed. We will move. Actually, the other public hearing that was scheduled for this evening is continued to 11:20 per the applicant's attorney. We've got an email today to continue Briarleaf till 11:20. You will all have that in your mailboxes. At this time, I would entertain a motion to recess to go into committee meetings. We will then come back. I will recognize two committees at that time, Transportation and Traffic. Vice President Parika has one item of business, and Councilor Conti for Capital Improvements and City Development. He has one item in his committee currently, and we'll have an emergency measure that will be read with the mayor's communication. Any other discussion? Thank you, Councilor Jackson. Any, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. We are recessed at 8:23.
So Peter, you're up first.
Give me a minute to move.
Do you have any business?
We're having committee meetings?
Yeah.
You're first. You can go.
You're first with your committee. Do you have anything?
For or against, because you don't know.
Public Safety Emergency Management Committee, I have one motion this evening from the docket of November 20th, 2018. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $15,941.71 from account 1-000-359000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account 12201-000-585065 fire telephone upgrade regarding the needs for funds to upgrade the phone system at the South Attleboro Fire Station.
Second.
This particular request, I talked to the fire chief. This is needed to move fire dispatch down to the South Attleboro Station, which will better serve our constituents' safety. And when we go to civil dispatches, it'll speed the process up. It's something we need to do regardless of that. So it's pretty straightforward. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to talk to the chief before next week.
I'm good.
Any questions? No questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you very much.
Need to adjourn. Need to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Thank you, Todd. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
I'd like to call Public Works Committee to order at 8:26. I have one item of business this evening. Thank you very much. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $19,200 from account 1000-359000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to the following accounts: $9,600 to account 1630100-587061 recreation leaf vacuum, $9,600 to account 1650100-587061 Park and Forestry leaf vacuum. Second. Thank you very much. So a couple weeks ago, I received a phone call from Derek Corsi. Their current leaf vacuum at this time of year just up and died. They looked into having it repaired, and it was noted that it was unrepairable. The expense was just going to be too much. So they share it between Recreation and the Parks Department. So they put their monies together to purchase a new one because, I mean, it is the season of leaves. We were just talking about that early this evening, and it still is the season of leaves. So this is just to give back to, they took it out of their accounts, purchased a leaf vacuum, and now we're just giving them the money back. But they do share it between the two departments, so it's a much-needed piece of equipment, and it has been on the capital improvement plan. I think it's listed as number 8 or something, but they definitely need this. Any comments, questions? Please, Mr. Blair.
Just one, Kate. I talked to him also, happened to bump into him. I didn't go looking for him. But he said the main problem with this piece of equipment is, we all know the park department doesn't have the availability to store a lot of this stuff inside. And this particular piece of equipment deteriorated extra fast. This piece of equipment, I believe, is 10 years old.
11, but you're close.
I know, I was on the council when we bought it. So it wore out much too fast. And that wasn't for lack of trying to maintain it, it was lack of storing it outside. Vehicles stored out, whether it be a car or a truck or a piece of lawn equipment, isn't properly stored, it goes to pot in a hurry. So
Good point.
I talked to them about that. Hopefully they find a place to store it.
I think they're going to work on that. Any other comments, questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. Motion passes. I'd like to ask for an adjournment. Second. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Great. We are adjourned at 8:29.
I'd like to call the Capital Improvements and City Development Committee to order at 8:29. Sitting on this committee are Councilor Dolan and Councilor Cooper is sitting in as well. I have 3 motions to bring before you this evening, but before I do that, Councilor Dole and I attended the Municipal Building Commission meeting last Wednesday night and got updated on the sludge landfill garage, which now looks like this, but cannot be completed because there's a moratorium on gas installations. So while we have a complete building with all the interiors done, we cannot bring gas to heat it because there's a moratorium on the gas.
What did I?
Where is that?
The sludge landfill garage.
No, he attended.
Oh, I thought you said.
Can
I thought, I was like, that concerned me a little bit.
What did I say? Did I misspeak?
You said I attended something.
No,
and
I
I'm feeling-
He did.
I attended the Municipal Building Commission.
I did as well.
Councilor Cooper?
Thank you. The gas moratorium is related to digging up the street, I believe. I don't think there's a, so I talked to the mayor about it just before he went on vacation because I had a constituent complaint who could not connect her home to gas related to the amount of square footage that's required and what's now required to repave when they dig up the road. It's a square foot disturbance amount. I don't have my notes right in front of me from that meeting with the mayor because I got a call from someone concerned who had invested substantially in her home. She put a gas system in knowing there was gas on the street. She called the gas company, and from the time that they did the initial renovation to the time she was ready to hook it up, she couldn't get it hooked up. Relative to this, why can't they put propane in over there and convert it if they can't put it in? And what is the city doing to push to resolve the issue with the gas company? Was that discussed at that meeting?
Yes, it was. And they're exerting all the influences that they can to get the gas company to install it. It's a new installation. And there's no money to put the propane in because this building was built without a contingency budget. And they're 3 weeks to the end of the job where the building will be complete. And, on November 30th, they'll have a substantial completion. And I do not know the cost impact of installing propane and then converting to gas. My basic knowledge knows that it's just a nozzle change, but that wasn't discussed at the time.
Was the mayor at that meeting?
He was not.
I'll call him tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Cooper, I was at the Public Works Superintendent today to arrange a tour for a constituent that goes through the building down there. He said that the gas company has agreed to put that gas in. He brought that up. I didn't even ask him about it. We were talking about another similar situation to you with a resident wanting gas. And he said they have agreed and got permission from the state
Well, that must have
somehow,
happened.
some way.
That must have happened since Wednesday.
But he told me, and I assume that Mr. Taylor knows what he's talking about when he's talking.
Well, the good news is that the building is built.
Right?
The building looks terrific.
So that, I do believe that's taken care of.
Councilor Cooper?
And we can thank Mr. Taylor for that.
Yes. Councilor Cutty, would you like me to reach out to the mayor between now and tomorrow, or would you prefer to do that since you brought it up? I said I would do it, but I want to sort of retract that.
I believe that the Municipal Building Commission with Tom are on the right track to do that without any interference from you or I.
But somebody's got to resolve it with the gas company.
Right, and they are working on that directly.
So we're 3 weeks up to it, but you're saying there's a moratorium. Last you heard Wednesday. We don't know what the issue is. There's no contingency. I'm worried that if the mayor isn't acutely aware of the issue, and I met with him today, and he did not mention it to me, and he's very good about that.
Well, I
will
would
give him that.
appreciate it if you would add it to your list of discussions with the mayor.
I will. I'll call him. Yep. Thank you.
Secondly, the Luther Phase 2 project, which was is nearing its completion. There was a slight delay because they had a delay of switching pumps. They had to switch pumps for running one system and then another, but that's coming along just fine. There's no no extra dollars, it looks like, are going into that project. The Attleboro Pawtucket interconnect is experiencing a delay because Camp Dresser McGree is having trouble getting information from the pump station manufacturer. Pump station manufacturer is a completely sealed, constructed unit, so the pump and the building and all the associated goods are all in one unit. So they've asked for a 10-day extension to submit to the Department of Environmental Protection and put it out to bid for construction in early March. On the library, the Phase 2 project, there's a long list of work to be done for cost estimation. What they've done is they've done a prioritization because they can't go over the 1.4 million that we approved. And if they do, they need a new OPM, the project manager for the project, and they like the one that they've got, who's a very capable man. I've met him and talked to him. So they're trying to come up with a way of prioritizing what needs to be done on the roof of the library without going over the 1.4 million and extending the project perhaps for another year so that the job can be done right for permanence. And that's all the news that I have to bring up to you, and I plan on doing that each month as the activities on capital improvements continue. So, from the docket of November 20th, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $60,625.89 from account 1-000-359-000, undesignated fund balance, free cash, general government, to account 1-124-1000-578-020, citywide previous year's bill relative to an invoice from the EPA for costs which were incurred between May 1st, 2017 and April 30th, 2018.
Second.
Thank you, Council Dole. So I requested for and I received the invoices from the EPW. And
The EPA.
EPA, sorry. It's been a long day. And this is what they look like. They're all redacted.
It's not telling
Very
us what
helpful.
it's for?
So this is the invoice from the EPA, okay? There's the redaction and
my
redaction. This is what we're paying for.
Public record, aren't they?
Here's some more,
Oh, that's
just in case you're curious.
I can read that.
Did you read that? Yeah, good. It boils down to this. The Sprack landfill has a very special situation that the city is a responsible party. And an agreement was reached between the Environmental Protection Agency and the city of Attleboro and the other responsible party, which is the former operator. And the EPA has agreed for a 5-year period to perform Superfund administrative reforms initiative. And they have come up with an agreement that they would bill future response costs to the city and alleviate the city expense for alleviating the situation at Sprack. So basically, if I could oversimplify this, the former operator pays a little bit of money, not a little bit, it's over $12,000 a year. The city pays the EPA engineering, and all engineering costs, to conduct task orders and review engineering reports and monitor the Sprack landfill site. So it's a contractual agreement. The EPA, in addition, has a federal mandate of accruing interest on late payments, which begin to accrue from the date of receipt of the bill. So not only do they tell you that we'll take care of it, but they want to be paid immediately. So it's prudent that and I would recommend approval of this invoice. I mean, some of it that I can read seems to make sense. And the part that I can't read, they obviously don't want me to know. So I'm recommending the passage of the measure. I do have the complete bills if you would like to review them. And I have no further comments. Any questions? Yes.
Can you send a copy of the
redacted EPA report to myself and anybody else?
Absolutely. I will send that
Digitally
up
best.
to... In fact, you can have these because I have it digitally. So here you are, Counselor.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. From the docket of November 20th, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $12,725 from account 6100-35900 Water Enterprise Fund retained earnings to fund 3330 Deanville Road regarding the need for funds for additional design work relative to the replacement of the Deanville Road water main.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Dolan. So I asked for and received information from Courtney Winchell regarding the $12,000 expense. And the original engineering design proposal for Deanville, Maine assumed one concrete sleeve continuing in one large length under the entire width of Interstate 95. And then it was realized that that was going to require some additional money because they were thinking they could put it underneath the roadway, the second section underneath the median strip, and then the third section underneath the highway. But the Commonwealth Avenue project and Camper Dresser McGree came up with the solution that no, it has to be one continuous concrete sleeve from one end of the highway to the other end of the highway. And I did get a breakdown of the engineering and development costs, and I'm happy to share that with you if you want them, but I recommend passage of the $12,725 for a continuous concrete sleeve underneath Interstate 95 to resolve an issue at Deanville Road, which has been going on now for over, well, we've known about it for over a year, but it's probably been going on for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And it needs to be repaired, and that concludes my comments. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. Finally, from the docket of October 2nd, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to waive the following permit and application fees related to the construction associated with the Attleboro High School project. The Conservation Commission application fees, the stormwater management application with the Conservation Commission, one for the roadway and one for the new high school itself.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Dolan. So, the high school project, $265 million, would typically result in, if it was a commercial venture, of a permit expense to the city of $50,524.27. $50,524,727. That's $50 million. No, sorry, $505,247. So if this was if this high school was a regular commercial project, the contractor would have to pay to the city in various fees $505,247.
Is that what Jack gave us last week? Or last time, Jack Jacoby, he gave us that list of fees?
Correct, that's what this is coming from.
Just a point of order, Council Conti. So in your motion, it doesn't break out I think there's two motions here that got combined. One is the motion for the pieces that you have in front of you from Attorney Jacoby, and then the second is the Conservation Commission application fees, which were not included in that initial thing from Jack Jacoby. So there's two things here that need to be voted out. One is a motion to waive the fees by category as described in that information you have before you. And then the second motion is to waive the Conservation Commission fees and the Stormwater Management application fee, one for the roadway and one for the new high school to the Conservation Commission. I think they're separate motions.
So I think you need to withdraw the second, right?
So we need to withdraw the second.
I withdraw the second.
Thank you. I'll withdraw the motion, and I will start a new motion from the docket of October 2nd, 2018. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to waive the following permit and application fees related to the construction associated with the Attleboro High School project. Fire protection, $21,097. Plumbing, $65,383. HVAC, $224,055. And electrical, $194,711.
Second.
Thank you. So on the plumbing inspection fees, the plumbing inspector by law has to be paid to go out and do the plumbing inspection, so the city can only waive 35% of the 100% of that cost. The building, it's important for the public to know that the building permit fee waivers and reduction in other permit fees reflect the fact that these permit fees are not reimbursable by the MSBA. In other words, if we had charged these fees to the city, we would not get reimbursed from the Massachusetts School Building Authority. And it just seems foolish for us to charge ourselves fees. And that concludes my comments. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. From the docket of October 2nd, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to waive the Conservation Commission application fees, stormwater management application with the Conservation Commission, one for the roadway and one for the new high school itself.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Dolan. I guess I could say ditto. It doesn't make any sense for the city to charge itself. The Conservation Commission does accrue funds in their permit kitty, so to speak, that they use for various projects throughout the year. But in this case, it just doesn't seem to make common sense. And that concludes my comments. Any other discussion?
No.
Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. That concludes the business that the Capital Improvements and City Development Committee has to bring before the committee tonight. I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Cooper. I declare the City Improvements and City Development Committee adjourned at 8:47. Thank you, Councilor Dolan.
Zoning and land use scarce for tonight?
Council order transportation and traffic at 8:47. I have one piece of business this evening. I entertain a motion to approve the following: amend section 10-4.151 of the revised ordinances by deleting Tiffany Street from South Avenue to County Street and replace it with Tiffany Street from Commerce Way to County Street. Thank you. So we had a public hearing on October 16th. This is to lift the no-through trucking, or the heavy commercial trucking on that part of Tiffany Street from County to Commerce Way, where the state of Massachusetts has withdrawn they've made the recommendation and strongly support, they will allow trucking in that location, so they're lifting the ban. That small section of Tiffany Street that wiggles along behind Commerce Way, that will still be restricted, but this is to take this out of the ordinance book so that we're in collaboration and coordination with the state. Any questions or concerns? I'll move for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. I will be voting this in front of the full council this evening because I need to have that vote. I call for an adjournment at 8:48. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned at 8:48. Thank you.
I'd like to call budget and appropriations to order at 8:48. I have 6 motions to bring in front of us tonight from the docket of November 20th, 2018. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $748,850.28 from account 1000-3590000, undesignated fund balance, free cash general government, to account 112410000-596 000 citywide stabilization fund in order to return the funds previously appropriated from the stabilization fund in order to cover a portion of the fiscal 2018 snow deficit.
Second.
Thank you, Council Cobus. This and the following two motions are, we've discussed several times during budget, meeting in October when Deb was here. This is all stuff we need to get done for the recapitulation. This is money that's already been designated, so now it's time to transfer it where it needs to go in order to officially balance the budget and make the recap work. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes, thank you. From the docket of November 20th, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $282,000 from account 1002-35900 undesignated fund. Let's see, balance free cash general government to account 1124100-596 citywide stabilization fund relative to the goals of the cash reserve policy to 1, establish a target balance for the city stabilization fund, 2, develop a schedule of annual appropriation designed to gradually reach and sustain the target balance for the city stabilization fund over time.
Second.
Thank you, Todd. Again, we've talked about this a number of times.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm thrilled that he's doing this. It's a great policy to sustain, and I support it fully, and that concludes my comments.
Well, I think it's a fair point. There's nothing saying that this administration had to. It's good to see that they are. I think it's fiscally responsible. It's what we need to do because there's a lot that's going to be changing over the next several years. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. From the docket of November 20th, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $148,137.83 from account 1000-3590000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account 1124100-59600 citywide stabilization fund relative to the return of funds from the stabilization for Winter Storm Riley expenses.
Second.
Thank you, Council Cobus. This one is, I believe, Riley was the monster storm we had in March, I want to say. So this is just to pay the city back for some of the expenses we had. Also, again, in order to finalize the recap. Questions, thoughts, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Before I go into the next motion, I only have 2 copies, but I'd like to hand this to my committee. I can make copies for everyone. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to approve a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $331,010 to account 1124100-599300, citywide transfer to capital fund, and to further transfer $331,010 from account 1124100-59930, citywide transfer to capital fund to fund 3548-499000, Finberg Field other financing sources relative to modifications of the Finberg Field remediation project.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Cobus. What I handed out to the committee, which I can get copies of everyone, is a breakdown of what our original budget for the Finberg remediation project was, as well as what the revised budget is, and it breaks down what the variances are. We need to approve the supplemental appropriation in order for it to properly reflect this measure, the fiscal 2019 tax rate recap. It's necessary to vote this matter prior to the submission of FY19. Councilor.
So, Mr. Chairman, I initially thought that we would not, I've always thought that we would not be able to accomplish this project in $700,000. But from the city improvement and city development and capital improvement, it was through my committee to get through the council to get that work started. And I've been keeping up with the developments that have been going on in Finberg, and I support them fully. And so I'll be wholeheartedly supporting this $331,000 because I believe the end result is going to be something the city of Attleboro will be very proud of.
Right.
And hearing what I just heard from seniors who are saying, well, if you get the show for it, this is another potential crown jewel of the city of Attleboro, the way what they have planned and how it's going to finish out is going to be something we can all be very proud of. And in my opinion, if you're in it for a foot, go in it for a yard and do it the right way.
Right.
And that's why we need the $331,000. And that concludes my comments.
No, I thank you for your comments. I think they're spot on. I think, you know, this is one of those situations, and I applaud you for the work that you had done up to this point. It ties in right to the recap where we need to get this done before the tax classification. So if anyone wants a copy of the breakdown, just let me know, and I can get copies in your mailbox. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none? Oh, Councilor Cobus.
So last week when this came down from the mayor, one of the things that jumped out to me was it talked about the project that's been modified with the addition of a tennis court. And then the construction costs with the updated bid as a result of those modifications, as well as the Mass DEP stuff, resulted in an additional $223,000. Do we know where these modifications are coming from? I mean, is it just the tennis court? Who's driving the project to sort of?
I will defer to Councilor Conchi on that. My piece in this, which is the most important piece, is to get this approved in order to get the recap, because this is part and parcel with the rest of the recap, getting taken care of before the tax classification vote. But I know, Councilor, you have...
Right, I understand that time's an issue.
I appreciate the question. I think it's a good one.
So, Councilor Cobus, there were tennis courts there all the way back through the 1960s when the Massachusetts State Championships were held at Finberg Field. And in fact, Attleboro, a home Attleboro resident, won that championship, and the trophy is right around the corner in City Hall. When the tennis courts that were there aged, they developed cracks because Finberg used to be a dump, and they did not have solid footing. So the intent was to restore back to Finberg what Finberg had, and therefore the tennis courts got back into the project and do not represent a $331,000 addition to the project. The reality is that all the way back to my first meeting with Camp Presser McGee and Mayor Dumas up in the mayor's conference room 2 years ago, no one in that room believed that the project could be done for $700,000. But it was a number that got put in place as a place mark to get the project started. There was intense discussion about whether or not Camp Presser McGee was the right firm to do the job, whether or not we should get another environmental company to do it instead. But because Camp Presser McGee has been doing this project since the beginning of when we learned there were issues in Finberg, and those issues over the decades have proven to be not as serious as everyone had alarmed. It was felt that we should continue with the people who have had such a great familiarity with the project. So I'm not saying that the project is going over $700,000 because we're using Camp Presser McGee. What I am saying is that you should have a certain level of confidence that the people that are doing this project are the people that have been monitoring that situation in that field for a very long time, since before I was a city councilor. And I do not think that there is any element of frivolity in this $331,000. It is simply to give back to Attleboro at Finberg Field what we've had, and to continue to use it safely for the residents of the Attleboro.
Thank you for the explanation. I would also add, we also saw this as a result of, as we've seen with several different projects so far, some of the unfavorable bidding environment that we're in right now, as the mayor refers to. But also, if you notice, it wasn't a contingency. So a third of this is adding that 15% contingency, which in a project like this, you know, you need that contingency. So, Vice President Perica, then Councilor Cobus.
Through the chair to Councilor Cobus. I have a little bit of history over at Finberg Field, and there's been a lot of discussion. It is an area that, you know, I fully support the cleaning up of this particular location. You never want to have to make a phone call to a friend to say, hey, you need to have your kid tested because you were exposed to lead multiple times. But in my discussions with like the rec department, they've always had the expectation that they would put tennis courts back in there. That they were in there as part of a capping process, and once they removed that, that's when some of the materials resurfaced. So there may be a collaboration in there with them. Anything could be happening in that regard with putting tennis courts back in there and behind it, just so you know.
Council Copus?
That all makes sense, and obviously I wasn't concerned about seeing the contingency added. It was the $223,000 increase that I was trying to get a better grasp on. Do we know if it went out to bid from 3 different companies? One of the reasons I'm asking is, in talking to, I forget who exactly mentioned it to me, but when the ARA had it, they had mentioned receiving a bid for like $500,000, which obviously is lower, and I'm not questioning this, but did we get the 3 different bids, or are we just sticking with Camp Dresser and McGee?
I can go back and I can find out the history of the project.
And I understand when you voted out of committee tonight.
I'm not trying to, that's not what I was trying to say, is I can easily, between now and next week, I can find the answer to that.
Perfect.
But I don't have with me at the stead the history of the project.
Yep, behind you.
And then I'll get you, Council. President Cooper.
I think that the other piece of the history that was mentioned but not elaborated on as much as I think is as important is when we tried to turn that land over to the Attleboro Redevelopment Authority to get grant money to clean it up. And we were told by the state, thanks, but no thanks, you're not doing that. And the Attleboro Redevelopment Authority gave it right back to us. So we've explored a lot of options. I think, Richard, you said it best when you said nobody in that room thought $700,000 was going to do it. I think my only ask when you get that information, Jay, is that we're comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges, right? Because there were different remediation steps that could bring it to certain levels.
Yep.
And I want to make sure that if you bring that forward and it was only $500,000, were they bringing it to the same level that this project is bringing it to when you're comparing? So that concludes my comments. Thank you.
So what I would do is ask if Council Conti, if any of the history that you have through your work on it, through the capital improvements committee, if you could forward that in through Virginia, because I think Councilor President Cooper brings up a good point. Where we're at today isn't where we started. As many things, these projects will change as things come about. And the reason I bring the contingency up is I think that a contingency in the scope of this it's paramount. I was a little shocked that we didn't have one to begin with, but it is what it is at this point. I'll also reach out to the chairman of the ARA, see what information he can give me as well, and we'll kind of piece this thing together. Councilor Conti.
So the file I'm going to give to you is a file I started 2.5 years ago, which is all early development proposal work. It's important to know that Camp Dresser McGee is the general contractor on this. They rely on going out to bids, and they're governed by law and the number of bids and et cetera. So it's not that the city is going out to do it, it's Camp Dresser McGee doing it. And there was one other point. Because the ARA was asked to give the property back to the city, they probably don't have a lot of information to give to you.
But, well, whatever I can find will help in this situation.
Yep.
Any other questions, thoughts, concerns on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. So the last two have to do with the tax classification. We just closed the public hearing tonight. Let me open it up and then we'll discuss. From the docket of October 13th, 2018, I entertain a motion to adopt a dual system of classification of real estate taxation in accordance with the appropriate general laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Cobus. This is the first procedural vote in order to continue to adopt a dual system of classification as we have since really the 70s. So one thing I will say at this point, we heard an awful lot of information tonight. We have a lot on our plates. We've heard a lot of information. I would prefer to vote this out of committee tonight, have the full conversation on the floor next week. What this will do is give us a full week to kind of wrap our arms around everything that we heard tonight. Reach out if we have follow-up questions, whether to Stan, myself, through Virginia. Please, questions you have, you know, if you have them, so we're not kind of bamboozled on the floor when we get surprised, that'd be great, so we can have a more robust discussion next week. But that's all the comments I have on this. Open it up if anyone has any. Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. From the docket of October 13th, 2018, I entertain a motion to adopt a classification factor of 1.25 for the fiscal year 2019.
Second.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right, so the reason I went with the 1.28 is because that's currently where it stands today. 1.25, I'm sorry, because that was the recommendation of Stan. So I know there's going to be robust discussions with amendments and everything else next week. I needed to get a number in there. I figured at this point we would go with what Stan recommended, and then we can just have at it next week.
Makes sense.
All right. Questions, thoughts, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes, and
I said aye, and then I said don't need to vote.
oh, sorry. And I would look to adjourn at 9:05.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and we are adjourned.
I'd like to call a license committee to order at 9:05. So I have quite a few for, so we have Ms. Jackson and Ms. Parika. I'm gonna go through these. If I skip any, it means I, for some reason, have an issue, need to go back, or whatever the case may be. So you might find that I skip some. Other than that, every one I say, I've been there. Okay? And obviously, if you have any questions. Okay. From the docket of November 20th, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the application for automatic amusement device renewals for 2019 for the following. Portuguese American Club, 65 Prairie Avenue, Attleboro, with 1 pool table and 1 jukebox. Chuck E. Cheese, number 464, 287 Washington Street, Attleboro, for 12 video games and 52 skills/kiddie rides.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
I entertain a motion to approve the following applications for a Class 1 auto renewal for 2019 for the following. Priority Automotive LLC DBA Cerrone Chevrolet Buick GMC truck at 103 Washington Street, Attleboro, with 84 customer parking spaces and 288 display spaces. Courtesy Auto Group, Inc., DBA Courtesy Kia Mitsubishi of 795 Newport Avenue, Attleboro, with 40 customer spaces and 195 display spaces. Next, Courtesy Auto Group, Inc., DBA Courtesy Kia Mitsubishi at 11 and 16 Scott Street, Attleboro, with 34 customer parking spaces and 172 display spaces.
Second.
Wasn't yours?
Yeah, that was.
Who was that?
That was good. It was Kate and Heather. It was
Because it
beautiful.
sounded odd,
We're
because
like
I wasn't
the
looking
voice
up.
of angels is what we really are.
A siren song.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, I entertain a motion to approve the following applications for Class 2 auto renewals for 2019. Mario Faria, DBA Pinecrest Motors at 2117 County Street, Attleboro, with 4 customer spaces and 15 display spaces. Next, 100% Auto Wholesalers LP at 21 Washington Street, Attleboro, with 10 customer parking spaces and 48 display spaces. Excuse me for 1 second. Let me switch these out here. I'm sorry, what did I just say? 100%? Okay. Greenlight Auto Sales, Inc., 650 Washington Street, Attleboro, with 10 customer spaces and 49 display spaces. Seacont Gas and Repair, DBA 123 Mobile at 300 County Street, Attleboro, with 4 customer spaces and 9 display spaces. Classic Auto Sales, LLC, at 1100 Oak Hill Ave, Attleboro for 5 customer parking spaces and 23 display spaces. GMV Inc., DBA JD by Ryder at 957 Washington Street, Attleboro, with 12 customer parking spaces and 58 display spaces. New England Automax Inc., DBA Automax Pre-Owned at 800 Washington Street, Attleboro, with 10 customer parking spaces and 100 display spaces. Your Mechanic Inc., DBA Better Auto, 473 Washington Street, Attleboro, with 10 customer parking spaces and 4 display spaces. Lime Rock Motors LLC at 722 Washington Street, Attleboro, with 3 customer parking spaces and 10 display spaces. East Coast Auto Sales at 24 Rice Street, Attleboro, with 14 customer parking spaces and 40 display spaces. Attleboro Collision Center, Inc., DBA KAR Auto Sales at 50 Falmouth Street, Attleboro, with 7 customer parking spaces and 9 display spaces. Michael A. Zaracco, DBA Mox Automotive at 801 South Main Street, Attleboro, with 10 customer parking spaces and 15 display spaces. Cartown USA, Inc. at 680 Washington Street, Attleboro, with 9 customer parking spaces and 20 display spaces. Landmark Auto Sales at 537 Washington Street, Attleboro, with 3 customer parking spaces and 15 display spaces. I'm done.
Second.
I just figured so we didn't all just, And any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
You didn't call for the vote, did you?
She did.
Yes.
She did.
Did
All those
everybody
in-
say aye?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear that, sorry.
It's because Kate and I didn't do it in unison this time, so that was
Okay.
really kind of.
I'm almost there. I entertain a motion to approve the following renewal applications for 2019 Class R license from Blue and White Motors, Inc., 1815 County Street, Attleboro, Mass., for 4 customer parking spaces and 15 display spaces. C&A Millennium Motors, Inc., at 1844 County Street. This is South Attleboro. Is that South Attleboro? For 10
Yes.
customer parking spaces and 8 display spaces. North Main Street Auto Division K&L Tire and Automotive Company, Inc., 44 North Main Street, Attleboro, Mass., for 17 customer parking spaces and 1 display space.
Second.
Any questions?
Just, if I may, great job. This is a momentous task to have to get through. And to,
It's 5 hours, 5 hours Saturday.
yeah, it's so, kudos to you.
Thank you.
I was the chair for a license last year. We split it up. It was challenging. It's challenging to get onto the lot. It's challenging to find someone to talk to. It's difficult when we find people who are not necessarily in compliance. And I think that I think you did a great job kind of barreling through all of this. And I appreciate the fact that there were some that may or may not have been in compliance that. You're giving them the opportunity to come into compliance, and that's why you're not voting them out just yet, but you'll go back. That just kind of doubles up your workload again, but good job, Counselor.
Thank you.
Counselor Cooper, or President Cooper.
Sorry.
So I too just want to say thank you for your work around making sure that if it says 7 customer parking spots and 34, and your plan is signed by the zoning enforcement officer, and he approves that is what is there. I appreciate that, and I do appreciate when you call, don't apologize, because it's good. And I appreciate that, and any help that you need, reach out and we'll get the rest of them resolved.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm sorry, did I call for a vote on those last ones?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And that's all I have tonight and so maybe next week if I can get to these other ones, I think there might be 10, maybe I can do a little committee meeting before, because there are some people I need to talk to, a little committee meeting before, maybe we can get them all.
If I might,
So, sorry, who do you want to go first?
Oh.
So I think next week will be challenging, and so unless you absolutely have to,
Okay.
don't book committee meetings before, because I think it's going to be a long night.
Okay.
So I would There's nothing, you know, there's nothing that says this has, you know, they don't expire till the first of the year. So you're doing great. You're way ahead of the curve. And I
Okay.
would just leave it at that and put them, you know, put it through the motions as you get to them.
Not a problem. Okay, so I would like to adjourn at, oh, I'm sorry, I
I
apologize.
was going to say the same thing.
Oh, okay. I'd like to adjourn at 9:14.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 9:14. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to call the City Property and Claims Committee to order at 9:14. The members of my committee are obviously myself, Counselor Blair, and Counselor Holmes. And I have 4 motions. From the docket of November 20th, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor in accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro to accept the donation of a Convalid Cruiser CX-10 Transit Stroller with an estimated value of $2,300 from Noel Deschamps to be used in the Early Learning Center.
Second.
Thank you. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? No. Okay. So that motion passes. Thank you. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor in accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro to accept the donation of 120,000 reprinted self-addressed envelopes from Bristol County Savings Bank to the Collector's Office. Thank you. I think, again, that's pretty self-explanatory. Any questions, concerns? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor in accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro to accept the donation of an Easy Stand Evolve Sit to Stand Stander with an estimated value of $3,300 from Bi-County Collaborative to the Brennan Middle School. Thank you. Again, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. All those in, any questions, concerns? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to declare the following police vehicles as surplus for trade-in or resale value and available for disposition. A 2012 Chevy Impala, the VIN number is 2G1WG5E38C1113069. The miles on it is 112,067, and the condition is poor.
Second.
Thank you. Again, self-explanatory. Any questions, concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. And that is all the business City Property and Claims Committee has this evening, and I would like to call for an adjournment. Okay, thank you. And we are adjourned at 9:17.
Richard.
Thank you.
I'd like to call Personnel and Human Service Committee to order at 9:17. My committee members are myself, Counselor Reynolds, and Counselor Blair. I have 2 motions from the docket of November 20th, 2018. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $500 from account 11241-000-578300 citywide reserve fund for transfer to account 1145100-5143030 treasurer longevity regarding the need to make a longevity payment to a payroll administrator for the credible service within the city. Thank you. So this is an error that was made, that they needed an additional $500 to just pay the longevity for, so that's what they're making the request for. Any other comments or questions?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes, or opposed, motion passes. From the docket of November 20th, 2018, I entertain a motion to approve the request made to transfer $9,353.04 from account 11241-000578300 citywide reserve fund for transfer to account 15411-000511000 council on aging salary regarding the need for funds to increase the senior clerk position to 35 hours due to the added workload.
Second.
Thank you. We heard Madeline discuss this earlier, so there's additional money that's going to be going towards the Council on Aging to have a position increase in hours. So I think that that's great over there. It's really needed. I do support this. Any other comments or questions?
I'm glad to see this come out. I've had several opportunities to speak with Madeline, and she's inundated, absolutely inundated. A lot of her staff is paid by grants, and we've talked about that several times. And if those grants go away, what does that mean? The conversation around tax classification tonight, I think she's going to be getting a lot more calls. So I'm glad to be able to see this come out, and when it comes in front of the full council next week, I'll be 100% in support of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Council Wilson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And that concludes the business for Personal and Human Service. I call for adjournment.
Second.
At 9:20. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And I have a small update for the special committee for tax abatement review. I have a meeting set up in early December with Stan, and I can give everybody an update after that, but we're hoping to possibly really early next year have something that we're starting to discuss in front of the full council. But I wanted to have the first meeting with him just to kind of see if we can get him on the, how can I say this? I want to get on the same page and make it so that it's not so open, but we have a little bit more of a plan in place of what we're going to be discussing. So I can certainly keep you guys posted after that happens in early December and call for a committee meeting soon after that.
Question, I think that's great. I think Stan plays a very critical part in this. Is the meeting you're going to have with Stan open to the committee? Will it be an open meeting, or is it a one-on-one meeting with you and Stan?
I was planning on in one-to-one meeting, and I was going to invite a couple other of the counselors and then have the committee meeting soon after that. Would you want it to be a committee meeting?
I would like for it to. I think just where it's new, and I think it's I would like to, yes.
Okay. Okay. I can then let me connect with him, and then let's set that up. Does that
Great.
sound like the best? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Of course. And that's it for the business for that. Anything else?
Do you cancel ordinance? Are you canceling?
I had ordinance earlier with
Oh, that's right.
yes.
Sorry.
Yep. Okay, so, does anybody want to go till 9:25, or do we want to jump right in?
Jump right in.
I love the way you think. Let's just get Steve.
Okay. Hope we can do a small meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Ready? Yep. Call the council back to order at 9:22. And we will go on to the reading of the mayor's communication.
November 13th, 2018, dear municipal councilors. Respectfully submit a communication from Director of Recreation Dennis Walsh regarding the need to replace the north side gutter line in the Bartek Recreation Center. This capital project is listed as priority 1 in the City of Attleboro Capital Improvements Program for fiscal year 2019 through 2023. Although we do not have a final price, I'm requesting the funds now in order to move the process along. A 10% contingency has been added to this total. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $23,034 from account undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account recreation building improvements. Copies in your packets. In accordance with Article 2, Section 2-9B of the City Charter of the City of Attleboro, I respectfully request your honorable body to consider this an emergency measure.
Thank you. Capital Improvements and City Development.
Sincerely, Paul Haru, Mayor.
Thank you. We will move right along to committee reports. Like I said, I did ask Virginia to post committee meetings on the 27th at the appropriate time, if you're planning for guests at that time, talk to her about priority, but they've all been posted for at this time. I will first recognize Councilor Conti to do the two pieces of business before his committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This would be from the docket of November 13th, 2018. I entertain a motion to adopt the following emergency preamble. That the Attleboro Municipal Council vote to take action as provided in the city charter, section 209B, regarding the emergency which presently exists relative to the need to replace the north side gutter of the line on Bartek Recreation Center. This capital project is listed as priority 1 in the City of Attleboro Capital Improvements Program for fiscal year 2019 through 2023. Although we do not have a final price, I'm requesting that the funds now, in order to move the process along, a 10% contingency has been added to this total. Therefore, I hereby request for appropriate $23,034 from account 1-000-359000, undesignated fund balance, free cash general government, to account 163-01000-582513, recreation building improvements. Copies are in your packets.
Second?
Thank you. Motion to note, Councilor.
So, Mr. President, it's just that this is an emergency measure, and so I'll give you some details that I have from the Recreation Department, that the Bartek Center was built in 1910, and water is seeping into the building through the gutter line on the north side, and the repair, it's a copper gutter line, and the repair to the gutter line is urgent. The water is causing more damage to the building. So it involves removing the existing patchwork that's been used to stop the gutter from leaking in the past, now has to be ripped out. We have to adhere a .060 EPDM, that's a rubber membrane to the original gutter line, install new copper outlets, seal the new gutter liner to the existing EPDM rubber roof, and install an aluminum edge on the outside of the gutter to prevent the leaks to further damage the building. It was raining all day today, and the water was seeping into the building. That's why it's an emergency measure, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this requires a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Jackson.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Vice President Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Delicio?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Cooper?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of November 13th, I move to approve the request of the mayor as an emergency measure to appropriate $23,034 from account 1-000-359000, undesignated fund balance, free cash general government, to account 163-01000-582513, recreation building improvements, to replace the north side gutter line on the Bartek Recreation Center.
Second.
I heard Jackson first. Proximity counts.
Kate Jackson, second.
So, Mr. President, if this wasn't an emergency measure, I might have a problem recommending the council to approve funds that have not been gone out to get a quote, because I heard councilors speak when we had the issue with the post office that don't get in the habit of asking us for money to do projects until you know what you're going to spend. And since we're in charge of the checkbook, I approve of that policy. However, this is an emergency measure, and as such, the building is being, a city asset is being destroyed by the rain. So I have a problem with letting that prolong. By the way, the air conditioner on the registry of motor vehicles is going to get installed tomorrow. It would have been today, but the weather was prohibitive to get the crane up there. This building, at 100 years old, is one of Attleboro's. I mean, it's fabulous. We went through it, I think, in the capital improvements tour, and it's remarkable. It's truly an important piece of American history. Not only that, it's our most important recreation center. I've long asked for, and this is coming up a little bit later tonight, for us to have a capital improvements budget line item so that things like this wouldn't become emergency measures. but it is an emergency measure, and the best we can guess is it's $23,034. The 10% is back in there so that he won't have to come and ask for more. And so as such, I urge the council to approve this request of the mayor, sending the message that don't get in the habit of asking us for money when you don't know what it's going to cost. I got that. I think he's got that message too. But in an emergency measure such as this, it's important to get that building sealed, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you. I will just add that, Dennis knows that I'm generally here on Tuesdays about 4:30 or 5. He stopped by to tell me if there's any question, anybody has any question, give him a call, go over and see the water actively leaking in the building right now as a result of the heavy rainstorm. This was an estimate he had updated. He is going through the process. And, he sat in one of these seats himself, so he knows that this is, not the way to do it, but he's got to get it done. Otherwise, he's got to keep waiting, and he can't do that. So thank you, Rick, for your explanation. I just wanted to add that little tidbit that Dennis did stop by to make sure that anybody that wanted to go see, give him a call. Any other questions or comments?
More of a comment. I would say I think that this is why we have emergency measures. I think over the years, we've all realized that if Dennis is asking for something, it's something that we need, which I think you alluded to. The other thing I would add is we're expecting a cold blast of air this week, including some snow. So we're coming into water dam and ice dam weather. So we need to get this done. And I think, again, I'm glad to see that there has been a contingency added. So I will support this 100%.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this will require a roll call vote. The vote will begin with Council Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Delissio?
Yes.
Vice President Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
President Cooper?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the docket of October 2nd, 2018, I move to approve the request of the mayor to waive the following permit and application fees related to the construction associated with the Attleboro High School project, including, and I'd like to amend the motion from the committee to include building general, electrical, which I stated, mechanical permits, fire protection sprinkler alarm permit, low voltage permit, water and sewer permit, dumpster permit, street opening permit, fuel storage permit, sewer connection permit, which I said during committee, curb cuts, Conservation Commission application fees, which we passed through committee, local wetlands protection ordinance, wetlands construction, notice of intent filed with Conservation Commission, wetlands crossing, notice of intent filed with the Conservation Commission, public waterworks utility potable water cross connection inspection, sheet metal inspection, temporary heating, sheet metal permit inspection, temporary cooling inspection, major site plan review application with the planning board, fees, and various special permits and variances with the zoning board of appeals, such as earth removal, height of the building, and so forth.
Second.
So, Mr. President, in my committee, we did pass a motion to waive the Conservation Commission application fees, stormwater management, and for the application with the Conservation Commission on the roadway and for the new high school itself. And we also passed a motion to waive the 4 other permits. But Deborah Gould is guided by very strict procedures. And this list of all of the potential fees that are going to come up for the new Attleboro High School are the ones which she needs to meet her obligations in reporting to the state. None of these fees are reimbursable by the Massachusetts School Building Administration. All of these fees are monies that the city would be paying to itself and not being able to get reimbursed. So it's not the city paying it to itself, it's contractors paying to the city money of which the city cannot get reimbursed. It just doesn't make any sense. So that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Just for additional clarity, Councilor Conti, the second motion you will have to do out of the before the council this evening on the,
Yes, we'll get to that.
that's specific to stormwater management. The
Yes.
fees at the top are just Concom, notice of intent,
Correct.
wetland delineation, any of that they have to do. Just want to
Sorry-
make sure that
sorry
was
to
clear.
cause any confusion.
No, I just wanted to make sure everybody here was clear on what we were doing. Thank you for your explanation, and any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this requires a roll call vote, and we'll begin with Councilor Jackson.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Vice President Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Delicio?
Yes.
Ms. Nolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Cooper?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. And finally, from the docket of October 2nd, 2018, I move to approve the request of the mayor to waive the following permit and application fees related to the construction associated with the Attleboro High School project, including Conservation Commission application fees, stormwater management application with the Conservation Commission, one for the roadway and one for the new high school itself.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order, Councilor Conti.
So, it's just me stating more of the same, is that it's a very expensive project, $265 million. And where we can save money, it makes a lot of sense, and in this case, it's $500,000. So I urge my councilors to pass the measure, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this requires a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Blair.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Mr. Delicio?
Yes.
Vice President Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
President Cooper?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes the business the Capital Improvement City Development Committee has to bring before the committee, the council this evening. May we call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time?
Perfect, thank you, Councilor Conti. Vice President Parika.
Thank you. Reporting for Transportation and the Traffic Committee. From the docket of October 16, 2018, I move to approve the following. Amend Section 10-4.151 of the revised ordinances by deleting Tiffany Street from South Avenue to County Street and replace it with Tiffany Street from Commerce Way to County Street.
Second.
Thank you, motion's in order.
I just discussed this a few moments ago in committee.
Great, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this requires a roll call vote, and we'll begin with Councilor Jackson.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Vice President Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Delicio?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
President Cooper?
Yes.
10 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
That concludes the business for Transportation and Traffic. And call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Perfect, thank you. We have no old business, we have one item of new business, and for that, I will recognize Councilor Conti.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to refer the following matter to the appropriate committee for study and recommendation. That a public meeting be set up in collaboration with the administration and council to understand the fiscal year 18 community compact through fiscal year 19, a voluntary mutual agreement entered into with the Baker Polito administration. At a minimum, the meeting shall be attended by Theo Calvis of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Division of Local Services Technical Assistance Bureau, or designate, the mayor, chief financial officer, city treasurer, city auditors, council president, chairman of the Budget Administration Committee, members of said committee, and any other elected councilor who wishes to attend. Said meeting to document, recommend, and implement upon recommendation any financial policies and best practices in capital improvement financing. The meeting will also identify the responsible parties and procedural steps necessary to carry out intended strategy and actions.
Second.
I have Mr. Cobus.
Me too.
Mr. President, this is a proud moment because I've wanted to put this new business in front of the council for a very, very, very long time, and I thank Councilor Delicio for urging me to get it done the last time we had a meeting. It is, those of us who have sat in these chairs for a while heard Councilor Cook speak for years about how things were really bad back in the day, and that how the city really needs to get to a capital improvement financial plan. And I've become a convert of that. It's very difficult to drain the swamp when you're getting bitten by alligators. We're about to start the budget process, and those of you who haven't been through it yet, it's hellacious. It's, the times we've had in this council chambers with budget reviews. What I'm asking is for the financial team, including the Budget Administration Committee, to get together with the state, who has a specialist who's been around the state observing the best practices in capital improvement funding, and to present to us the things that they've discovered that work in other communities who are also trying to drain the swamp, getting bit by alligators. I mean, everybody's in the same boat. So that we can come up with a strategy and actions and some recommendation to change the budget process to include capital improvements. Because of things like tonight with the copper gutter on the north side of Bartek Center, like the air conditioning heating unit that's going on to the old post office not a day earlier than needed when the temperature's dropping. Capital improvements in this city are just now being recognized when I talk to taxpayers that we're neglecting our infrastructure. The report delivered to the Department of Public Works chairman, at the time Lance Hill, now Mike Tyler, states that he needs an additional $2.9 million in addition to the $1.2 million we got in Chapter 90 dollars to do road repairs, to keep the roads in as good a condition as they are now on an annual basis. $2.9 million just for roads. The capital improvement program plan book that we review each year is a great job. Depressing as can be. I get depressed every year when it's delivered. It's such an overwhelming list of millions and millions, tens and tens, hundreds of millions of dollars that just get worse. And this is the best way I can see for the city to go forward and put an end to what I think is a serious problem in city management. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Councilor Conti. Any questions or comments? This requires a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Opposed? Thank you. Motion passes and will be referred to the Budget and Appropriations Committee. And before we make an announcement to adjourn, I have two quick things. Make a motion to adjourn. We do have the meeting Thursday night at the high school, joint meeting with the school committee, school building commission, municipal building commission, starting at 7 in the Bray Auditorium. And then we have the meeting Saturday at 9 a.m. For those that can attend here to review. Councilor-elect Waterman will be sworn in on Friday, it's my understanding from my meeting with the mayor, and so he will be, my goal was to update him with what was in, whoever that person was, with what was in committee. Actually, he will be a counselor sworn in by then, so we're even that much further ahead. And just remember, if he was not sworn in as a counselor, he cannot vote on anything that was a public hearing. Other things he can get updated on, but anything as a result of a public hearing, he cannot vote on because he was not a counselor at the time of the public hearing. So just keep that in mind. Any other questions or comments, Council President?
Just Thursday night is also Blue Pride Night at Attleboro High School. So those events start at 6 and go till about 8. So parking will be at a premium, just so you're aware.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? At this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. We are adjourned 9:43.